When the boxer spat at the janitor's feet and called him trash, everyone laughed. But what happened next, nobody saw coming. The smell of sweat and adrenaline filled the small-town gym. Posters of champions lined the cracked walls, faces of men who had clawed their way to glory with their fists. But in the corner, bent over a mop bucket, was a man no one noticed. Earl Johnson, mid-50s, quiet. A janitor with worn-out sneakers, a hunched back, and hands calloused from years of scrubbing floors instead of throwing punches. He swept the dust off the gym mats every night, while the young athletes chased their dreams of becoming the next heavyweight star. That evening, the gym was buzzing louder than usual. Damian Cross, a rising star in the boxing world, had just returned from a televised fight. Tall, muscular, with a cocky grin and an ego even bigger than his muscles, Damian basked in the admiration of his entourage. "Step aside, old man." Damian barked as Earl tried to mop around the ring. The janitor quietly moved, but Damian wasn't done. He kicked the bucket, splashing dirty water across Earl's shoes. Laughter erupted from the crowd. "Man, you're too slow to even clean right," Damian sneered. "Can you imagine this guy trying to fight? He'd crumble with one jab." The room roared. Earl froze, his face calm but his eyes burning with something no one saw. Something old. Something dangerous. One of the younger boxers whispered, "Hey Damian, rumor has it, this janitor used to fight." The gym went silent for a second, then erupted in laughter again. Damian leaned in, towering over Earl. "You?" Damian mocked. "You're nothing but a washed-up nobody. Stick to your mop." He shoved Earl's chest. Earl steadied himself, then looked Damian in the eye for the first time. His voice was low, steady, but carried weight. "Son, I've been hit harder than your words." The room went cold. For the first time, Damian's smile faltered. The tension was unbearable, every boxer and trainer waiting for what would happen next. Stories like this? They're real. They're raw. And they're what we bring you every week. If you're watching this and you believe in underdogs rising, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss another story. The trainer, Coach Miller, quickly stepped in. "Enough, Damian. Earl's just here to do his job. Leave him be." But Damian wasn't done. He leaned close to Earl's ear and whispered, just loud enough for others to hear. "Tell you what, old man. Tomorrow we spar. Just you and me. I'll show everyone here what a real joke looks like." The gym exploded. Cheers. Whistles. Excitement. Earl didn't flinch. He just gave a slow nod, turned back to his mop and kept cleaning. But his silence wasn't weakness. It was something else. Something Damian would regret. As the gym cleared out that night, Coach Miller stopped Earl by the door. His voice was heavy, filled with disbelief. "Earl, are you really gonna step in that ring with Damian?" Earl looked back, his eyes sharper than anyone had ever seen. "Coach, once a fighter, always a fighter." The gym smelled of sweat, leather, and pride. Punching bags swung on their chains like pendulums. Jump ropes snapped the air, gloves thudded into heavy bags with the rhythm of a war drum. Posters of champions lined the cracked walls, men frozen in time with fists up and eyes mean. At the center of it all, basking in his own orbit, was Damian Cross. Fresh off a televised win, Damian moved like he owned the place. Long, relaxed strides, towel draped over his neck, that signature cocky grin stretching across his face. An entourage trailed him like shadows. Phones were out, cameras ready. Every nod he gave felt like a coronation, every smirk a decree. He was the star and he wanted everyone to feel it. Near the far corner, bent over a mop bucket, Earl Johnson worked in steady circles. Faded coveralls, worn-out sneakers, calloused hands. The gym treated him like furniture that moved. He kept his head down, the floor clean, and his thoughts to himself. "Yo." Damian's voice cut across the room, loud enough to hush conversation. He pointed a gloved hand toward the corner. "You missed a spot, Granddad." Laughter rolled through the gym, some of it eager, some of it nervous. Earl wrung out the mop and slid the bucket a few inches, unbothered. He didn't even glance up. Damian stepped closer, putting on a show. "You hear me? Or you just too old?" He leaned over the mop handle, voice dipped in sugar and poison. "Tell you what, when you're done polishing my footprints, I'll autograph the mop for you." Snickers. A couple of the young fighters side-eyed one another, unsure whether to laugh or look away. Earl finally looked up, calm, steady, eyes clear as ice water. "Some of us fight battles you can't see," he said softly. The line landed like a jab you don't see coming. Damian blinked, then grinned wider. He loved a stage. He loved an audience even more. "Oh, that's nice," Damian mocked. "Poetry hour. How about we try something with a beat? He tapped the ring with his glove. Step in. We'll see what kind of battle you've got left in those rusty bones. The room held its breath. Even Coach Miller, who'd been working pads with a prospect, paused mid-combo and turned. Damien, Coach warned, voice low. Leave it alone. Damien didn't. He never did. He took a half-step closer to Earl, lowering his voice just enough to make sure everyone leaned in. Truth is, you're just a janitor. You clean up after men like me. That's your level. A chorus of oaths from the peanut gallery. Earl set the mop in the bucket, the water sloshing softly. He wiped his hands on his coveralls and faced Damien fully, spine straight, shoulders square. There was no puffing of the chest, no show. Just presence. You sure you want that, son? For a heartbeat, the mask slipped on Damien's face, then arrogance shoved it back in place. His grin sharpened. Tomorrow. You and me. 3 rounds. I'll teach the gym how to take out the trash. Phones lifted higher. Someone yelled, set a time. Someone else, post it on the gym page. The energy blew the roof off the place. Earl gave a single nod. No theatrics. No smack talk. He pushed the bucket toward the supply closet and disappeared behind the swinging door. His silence wasn't surrender. It was the quiet right before thunder. The gym hummed long after Earl left. Clusters of fighters gathered in corners. Man's crazy, one prospect muttered. Damien's going to murder him. Another shook his head. You see the way Earl stood up? Not scared. Balanced. Like, he's done this before. The older heads in the room said nothing. They watched Damien preen for cameras, shadowboxing under the fluorescent lights, and then watched the door Earl had disappeared through. A few of them had lived long enough to know, the loudest man in the room is not always the most dangerous. Coach Miller kept working pads, jaw tight, eyes narrowed. He'd seen enough ringside tragedies to respect silence. That night, Earl sat at his kitchen table. His hands, those hands, rested on either side of a small picture frame. A girl in a graduation cap grinned back at him. His daughter. The promise he'd made to her after the last fight, after everything went sideways, was simple. No more getting hit for money. No more trying to prove he could still be the man he once was. He picked up a roll of old hand wraps from the drawer. The cotton was frayed, the Velcro tired. He turned the wraps over in his palms like a prayer rope. He didn't want this, but he knew life doesn't ask courtesy. It calls your name in the middle of the night and dares you to answer. Earl exhaled slow. Somewhere deep in his chest, the bell rang. Word spread by sunrise, Janitor versus Damien, today. By noon, the gym felt like a small arena. Phones readied. Live streams queued. Betting whispers slipped through the air, mostly jokes at Earl's expense. Almost everyone expected a public lesson in humiliation. Damien soaked it up. He hit the pads with mean, loud combos, pop pop pow, turning after each flurry to wink at the cameras. He flexed. He posed. He laughed. I'm going easy, he promised his followers. Gotta respect the elderly. Where's my mop, man? He shouted, bouncing on his toes. Don't tell me he stiffed me on the cleaning bill and the beatdown. And then Earl Johnson walked in. No coveralls. No bucket. Old boxing shoes laced tight. Plain gray tee. Worn trunks from another lifetime. He carried a faded gym bag. No entourage. No noise. The air changed. A few chuckles died in throats. The older head straightened up. Even Coach Miller's eyes flickered. Recognition? Respect? Something like both. Damien's grin thinned for a fraction. Then he puffed himself back up and pointed a glove at Earl. You're going down, Janitor. Earl climbed into the ring without a word. He touched the top rope, tested the give with his palm, then turned and faced Damien. His feet settled naturally into a stance that looked lived in. The kind of balance you don't fake. The kind of quiet, coiled spring that only years of habit create. Coach Miller stepped between them for a quick set of rules. 3 rounds, light spar. Clean, controlled. No knockouts. His eyes locked on Damien. And no showboating. Damien smirked. I'm a gentleman. Coach cut a look at Earl. Earl gave a small nod. Someone rang the bell for round 1. Damien sprang forward, shoulders loose, hands low, cocky swagger rolling through his stride. He snapped a few lazy jabs, testing, teasing. He wanted to play with his food. Earl didn't flinch. He didn't retreat. He just slipped, half an inch here, a whisper there. Damien's first jab sliced air. The second brushed Earl's cheekbone but never truly found a home. The third. Earl was already gone, angle changed, weight sitting soft on the ball of his back foot like he had nowhere to be but here. Nah, he got lucky, someone murmured. Damien laughed, tossed a right hand with a little heat on it. Earl's left shoulder rolled like water. The punch slid off, clumsy now that it had missed meat. Earl's eyes were quiet, watchful, not impressed. Damien frowned. He doubled the jab, faster this time. Earl tilted his head an inch and let the gloves whisper past. Damien added a hook behind it, eager to put leather on the old man. Earl dipped, not dramatic, just enough, and Damien's glove swished through empty space. A sound rose from the crowd. Was that surprise? Admiration? Coach Miller's lips pressed into a line. He folded his arms. Damien got irritated. He stepped in heavier, ripped a body shot. It thudded into Earl's forearm. Earl's elbow was already there to meet it, tight, economical. Damien tried to smother him, crowd him, bully him into the ropes. That's when Earl took a half step right and, without throwing a single punch, made Damien stumble into the corner post like a bull charging a matador who'd already vanished. The room reacted, sharply, involuntarily. Oh. Damien blinked, surprised, a flush of embarrassment streaking his cheeks. He bounced out, smirk forced. Okay. Cute. He flicked another jab, then a right hand, this one meaningful. Elbow behind it, knuckles turned over properly, weight dropping. That right hand could end a night. Earl's gloves were already there. He caught it soft and redirected it a hair, like turning a doorknob. Damien's momentum carried him past his own balance point. For the first time, Damien realized, the janitor wasn't lucky. The janitor was reading him like a book he'd written himself. Earl didn't throw. Not yet. He just kept making Damien miss. Every whiff frayed Damien's temper. Every slip made the crowd murmur louder. Comments flooded live chats. Who is this man? Yo, Earl got skills. Damien playing or what? Damien snarled. Stand still. Earl's voice was almost gentle. Why would I do that for you? The bell rang. Damien jogged to his corner and pretended to grin, eyes darting to see if anyone noticed the tightness in his chest. Coach Miller tossed Earl a water bottle as the old fighter stood calmly near the ropes, breathing deep and easy. No one was laughing now. Round one ends without Earl throwing a single shot, yet Damien looks rattled. The crowd's turning. The phones are rolling. And Earl hasn't even started. The bell echoed through the gym like a church gong, but only one man walked out of that first round with reverence. Earl Johnson stood by the ropes, shoulders loose, breathing deep and even, sipping water like this was nothing more than another day of work. He hadn't thrown a single punch. He hadn't needed to. Across the ring, Damien cross-paced like a caged lion. His grin was cracked porcelain now, flashing for the crowd but not reaching his eyes. The whispers in the gym cut deeper than any punch could. Yo. Earl made him miss everything. He's too calm, man. That ain't no janitor footwork. What's Damien doing? He looks shook. Damien's trainer leaned in, voice hushed but sharp. Listen, you're embarrassing yourself. Stop playing. Put him away. I got him, Damien snapped, brushing sweat off his forehead. Just warming up. But his eyes flickered. He'd meant to humiliate Earl, not get toyed with in front of his own kingdom. The bell rang again. Damien exploded out of his corner like dynamite. No more teasing. No more dancing. Just violence. He snapped a jab. Earl slipped. He ripped a hook. Earl dipped. He pounded a right hand to the body. Earl's elbow was there, solid as stone. Damien grunted, sweat flying, throwing harder and harder, each shot fueled by bruised pride. But the harder he swung, the easier Earl read him. Every miss burned Damien's lungs. Every dodge tightened the noose. The crowd wasn't cheering for Damien anymore. They were reacting to Earl. Every slip, every sidestep, every tiny shoulder roll pulled gasps and shouts. Whoa, did you see that? He making Damien look stupid. Yo, Earl's cold. Damien roared and lunged with a looping overhand right, aiming to decapitate the old man. That's when Earl finally moved different. Not just slipping. Not just guarding. He answered. A short, tight left hook snapped out, quick as lightning. No wind-up. No show. Just clean technique. Damien's head jerked sideways. His knees buckled. The sound echoed louder than the bell itself. The gym erupted. Oh. He landed on him. Janitor got hands. Damien stumbled back, eyes wide, scrambling to cover the shock on his face. He'd been hit before, sure, but not like that. Not by someone he thought was beneath him. Earl didn't chase. He didn't gloat. He simply reset, gloves steady, expression calm. Like a teacher waiting for the class clown to settle down. Damien spat blood into the canvas and snarled. His arrogance cracked, anger spilling out like a busted hydrant. "You lucky shot, old man," he barked. "Do it again." Earl tilted his head slightly, voice calm, low, dangerous. "Don't tempt me, son." Now the room's energy belonged to Earl. Phone cameras locked on him. Fighters whispered to one another, trying to piece together the riddle. "Wait, I think I seen him before." "Yeah, wasn't Earl? No way. That's him? That's really him?" Even Coach Miller watched in silence, arms folded, eyes narrowing as memory connected dots. Damien swung again, but his rhythm was gone. He was angry, sloppy, reaching. And Earl, steady as a mountain, picked him apart. A jab slipped through Damien's guard, popping his nose. A counter right hand tapped his ribs. Nothing wild, nothing reckless, just precise, surgical punishment. Each connection felt like a history lesson. This is what real fighting looks like. This is what patience buys. This is what humility keeps you from learning. By the middle of the round, Damien's chest heaved. His legs slowed. Sweat streamed down his temples. Earl, though older, looked carved from calm. And then it happened again. Damien overcommit, wild left hook. Earl leaned just outside its path and snapped a straight right down the pipe. Damien's head whipped back. His mouthpiece nearly flew. His arms dropped instinctively, his body wobbling. The crowd lost its mind. He rocked him. "No way. No way. Janitor gonna drop him." Phones shook in hands. Streams blew up with fire emojis and disbelief. And Damien, for the first time in his career, tasted the bitter acid of doubt. The bell saved him. He staggered back to his corner, legs rubbery, trying to fake swagger but failing. His trainer shoved a stool under him, waving ammonia under his nose. "You listening now?" his coach barked. "This ain't no Janitor. This man's been here before. You better tighten up or you're gonna be the headline tomorrow. Champion humbled by custodian." Damien slammed his glove on the canvas, furious. "I'm not losing to him. I'm not." But across the ring, Earl didn't even sit. He leaned against the ropes, arms draped loose, eyes scanning Damien the way a master carpenter inspects wood, knowing exactly where it'll break. No celebration. No taunting. Just control. The crowd knew. The whispers had turned into certainty. He's done. Damien's done. Earl's just playing with him now. Nah man, this is something deeper. You see how he moves? That's years in the game. Even the doubters started to wonder, who is Earl Johnson really? As the referee called fighters back for round 3, Earl finally spoke loud enough for Damien, and the whole gym, to hear. "You wanted to make me your lesson, son?" he said, calm but cutting. "Now the lesson's about to start." The bell rang. Damien charged, rage in his eyes, fists swinging heavy. And Earl took his first true step forward. The crowd held its breath. The old lion was about to show his teeth. Earl has finally revealed his hand. He isn't just surviving, he's teaching Damien a lesson in front of everyone. Round 3 will determine whether Damien breaks completely, or if Earl delivers the knockout everyone's waiting for. The gym was buzzing with anticipation. The clock ticked down, and every eye was on Earl Johnson as he stood in the corner, calm and steady. Damien Cross, his chest heaving, eyes filled with rage, stood opposite him. The crowd had gone from mocking to silent, the energy now tense and thick with the weight of what had transpired. Earl's breathing was deep, controlled, as though he were meditating before the storm. His gloves were raised, his stance perfect, his eyes locked on Damien with the precision of a surgeon ready for the final incision. Damien, on the other hand, was a different man. His confidence had cracked, his arrogance replaced with anger and frustration. He had underestimated Earl at every turn, and now he was paying the price. The cocky grin was gone, replaced by gritted teeth and wild eyes. This wasn't just a fight anymore, it was about redemption, about proving to himself that he wasn't the joke everyone thought he was. The bell rang. Damien exploded forward, fists swinging with the desperation of a man on the edge. He threw a flurry of jabs, hooks, and uppercuts, each one aimed at Earl's head, hoping to land that decisive blow. But Earl didn't flinch. He moved with the fluidity of a dancer, his head slipping past Damien's punches by mere inches, his body twisting in ways that made the younger fighter's attacks miss by inches. Each missed punch from Damien seemed to make him angrier, and each dodge from Earl made him look even more composed. The crowd could feel the shift. The energy that had once supported Damien now began to shift in Earl's favor. Every slip, every move Earl made seemed to remind everyone that there was a master in the ring. Damien lunged, trying to connect with a massive right hand. His entire body followed through, and for a split second Earl's eyes narrowed. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. Earl didn't wait for the punch to come to him. He moved. As Damien threw the punch, Earl stepped to the side, effortlessly slipping out of its path. With Damien off balance, Earl saw his opening. He took one step forward, closing the distance, and with the precision of a man who had spent years in the ring, he unleashed a devastating right hook. The sound of the punch landing was like a clap of thunder. Damien's head whipped back, his body stumbling, his knees buckling as he tried to regain his balance. But it was too late. The punch had connected with the force of a freight train, knocking Damien to the canvas with a sickening thud. The crowd erupted in shock. Phones were shaking in hands as live streams flooded with disbelief. Damien lay on his back, blinking up at the lights, his chest heaving as he struggled to process what had just happened. He had been brought down by the man he had mocked. The janitor. The washed-up nobody. The referee began his count, but Damien didn't move. He tried to lift his arm, but it fell back to the canvas. He tried to sit up, but his body refused to obey. For the first time in his career, Damien Cross realized what true humility felt like. He had been humbled not just by Earl's punches but by the life lessons Earl had delivered, round after round, showing him what it meant to fight with heart, not ego. As Damien lay there, the gym fell silent. Earl stood above him, not gloating, not smiling, just watching as the referee hovered over the fallen fighter. The gym had witnessed something extraordinary, the rise of an underdog who had been written off by everyone, except himself. Earl's victory was not just in the ring. It was a triumph over the arrogance of youth, over the assumption that experience could be beaten by strength alone. It was a reminder that life is full of challenges, and the true measure of a person is not in how many punches they can throw but in how many they can take, and keep going. Coach Miller stood at the edge of the ring, his arms crossed, a knowing look in his eyes. He had seen this before in different forms with different fighters. He had seen men with more talent, more muscle, more power, fall to the man who never quit, the man who kept fighting not for glory but for honor. As Earl helped Damien to his feet, he whispered something that the entire gym heard. Sometimes the hardest fight is the one you have with yourself. Damien, still stunned, nodded. He had no words. The cocky grin that once defined him was gone. All that remained was a fighter who had been reminded of the one thing he had forgotten: respect. As the crowd erupted into applause, Coach Miller turned to the camera that had been streaming the fight live. "You've witnessed something incredible today," he said, looking directly into the lens. "This isn't just a fight. This is a lesson. It's a reminder that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, you have the power to rise up, to stand your ground, and to show the world what you're really made of. And if you believe in the power of the underdog, the strength of perseverance, and the heart of a fighter, then don't miss another story. Subscribe to Racism Exposed. We bring you stories of real people, real struggles, and real victories. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button now and stay tuned for more. Because, just like Earl Johnson, you never know who's really the fighter until they step into the ring.